My research particularly is focused under the umbrella term of HIV research, but we focus specifically on two niche areas of HIV. And I think it's quite cool because it's not general knowledge to the wider population. The first niche area being particularly related to what many people don't know, that HIV is different based on your geographical location. So, in other words, if you're staying in the global north, like Europe and America, the type of HIV they find there is different to the type of HIV we find in Sub-Saharan Africa. So, a lot of my research is related to what are the building blocks of HIV that affects why we see differential clinical outcomes when we compare the global north to the global south. And then the second niche area is particularly what many people don't know is that HIV also crosses the blood-brain barrier and it will cause damage to the brain itself. So a large population of people living with HIV can also present with some type of clinical neurocognitive impairment. So this is in the case even if you're on antiretroviral therapy, there's still a large population that develops this type of cognitive impairment. So this is things like forgetting to take your medication, and in severe cases it presents as something very similar seen in Alzheimer's disease, like a dementia. And a lot of our research is focused around those two niche areas, but the third one also being to advocate for Sub-Saharan Africa in terms of a lot of our understanding of how HIV functions is derived from studies in the global north, and we're trying to bridge that gap to show that this is how we should tailor South African or Sub-Saharan African specific HIV research, and then to understand what HIV looks like in our particular context. What inspired me to do this particular research, I think it has a long lineage. I think about back to my undergraduate days at the University of the Western Cape. There I started with biotechnology, and there we developed point-of-care devices to diagnose HIV within the window period. And that's one of the inspiring things, is that we can now look at things that can change many people's lives. And with the completion of my master's at the University of the Western Cape, I then became interested in what are the other things HIV can do to the human brain, or to the human life rather. And this is where I was introduced to how HIV is able to affect the human brain. And I then registered for a PhD at the University of Cape Town through the Neuroscience Institute. And we started looking at the mechanisms underlying how HIV affects the brain. But the important thing is that what inspires me most is that we get an opportunity to affect or influence a large global HIV population that is endemic to South Africa. And the research that we often do gets published, and then people can often build on that research, and we can actually see tangible outputs from the type of work that we're doing. And I think that keeps me inspired to push and want to do more, not just for myself, but the students that work with me, but also for the many lives that is affected by the HIV virus. What it means to receive the Fulbright Fellowship, I think firstly it's a big blessing and an honor to receive a Fulbright or something this prestigious. In academia, it's often considered to be the holy grail of fellowships, and it's because of the competitiveness of the program. But also being in academia, one of the hardest things to do is to set up collaborative networks. You often hear coming through academic life cycle that you need to go to a conference and connect with people to set up that collaborative network. But that's 3 to 4 days of connecting, and you can't really make meaningful, strong collaborative networks. So that's what the Fulbright offers me. It offers me an opportunity to connect with one of the leading global neuro-HIV researchers, and then to set up meaningful and lasting collaborative networks. And I think just having the ability to do that will stretch not just my career into overdrive, but for those who work with me, but also for our faculty and to the university as well. And then getting the Fulbright, what it means in terms of actual physical lab experience. I'm going there to set up what is known as a blood-brain barrier model. So we kind of will replicate the human system in a cell culture model, and then we can start asking these specific questions to the global south. How does these HIVs affect this blood-brain barrier model that we can't really do in a human brain? And then the last aspect I think is particularly important. I get to bring the skills back to the students entrusted to me so that we can develop and then produce high quality and impactful research into the future. As an academic, you often think about yourself, right? But I think for me, I have a bigger vision and a bigger purpose, and the legacy that I want to leave behind is that, number one, firstly, I want to become an established researcher with a wide collaborative network for myself, but also for those around me. I often think about the saying of Sir Isaac Newton, where he said you can start to see further on the shoulders of giants. And I think that's the type of legacy that I want to leave, is that I want to set myself up in a certain way so that those students around me has the ability to see a bit further than what they thought would be naturally capable for their own circumstances. So I think overall my goals and ambitions: to become a well-established scientist, to publish high impactful research, but also to allow and give opportunities for those entrusted to me.